Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Much appreciated you guys taking a little time and tuning into the video. And actually I'm just heading back from Grand Lake right now. Heading on the water lesson down there today, heading back to Springfield to get Elijah at daycare. And I wanted to take a little bit of time to do the tip and pertinent to what was going on at Grand Lake a little bit. Today what we're going to talk about is rising water in the spring, and I'm going to give you guys 3 proven approaches to catching fish into those conditions. I think a lot of people struggle with catching fish during rising water, but here in Missouri, we deal with it every spring. I mean, the lakes fluctuate a lot here. There's a lot of different variations and elements to it. So I'm going to give you guys some tips and techniques on how you guys can catch them when the lakes start to rise in your particular areas, which a lot of times they do in the April to June time frame. So real quick, just wanted to remind everybody, I talked about it yesterday. We finally got a bunch of new intuitive angling apparel. We got the new logo put on them. We got a bunch of different type of shirts, t-shirts, hoodies, backpacks, blankets, coffee cups, all that type of stuff. You can check it out. Just go to my YouTube homepage, click on the About section, and then click on Intuitive Membership. So it's a good way to support the channel if you want to do that. Okay guys, let's talk about the way that you need to attack this rising water in the springtime of the year. There's a couple different considerations that you have to take into consideration when this happens. And the things that I look for on this before I actually decide what I want to do is water clarity is a key element to it. That's the first thing I'm going to talk about, because the water clarity in the lake that you're fishing prior and during and after the lake comes up has a big impact on the techniques that you're going to use. Because, for example, let's say the lake that you're fishing is traditionally dirty, where you've got water visibility of like maybe less than 2 foot, and then the lake comes up and it gets muddy. That's going to be one varying factor. But say, for example, you fish a lake like Bull Shoals in Arkansas and the lake rises 10 feet, but it stays clear. That's another approach here. So the level of clarity that you have during the rise and right after the rise is a big deciding factor on the technique. Okay, here's sort of my foundational rule of thumb. If the water visibility is, say, less than 3 feet, actually less than 2 feet, sort of in that 1 to 3 feet zone, when that water comes up fast in the spring, what the fish do for the most part is they move to the bank. They move right to the bank. Doesn't matter if there's any cover on it or not. Cover can be, pretty much irrelevant. But if you've got dirty water and rising water in the springtime of the year, when that water temperature's, between upper 50s to upper 60s, you've got a lot of those fish that may have been out in that 4 or 5 foot zone. They move right up into the bank and get, in that 1 to 2 foot zone, especially if you lose your water visibility, like down to 6 inches. In that condition during the springtime of the year, there's a couple different approaches that work really good. One of the baits that works really good on that is like a larger wide wobble and square bill crankbait, like that Megabass S-Crank 2.0, just a 3-inch balsa square bill crankbait, something like that, in like a bright color, like a blackback chartreuse side, fishing it right up on the bank. Another bait that works really good, especially if that water temperature is under 60 degrees, is a big spinner bait, like a 3/4 ounce spinner bait, 1/2 ounce spinner bait with like a number 6 willow leaf blade on it, slow rolling it just on the bank there. And the third thing would be a jig, like a black blue tinsel jig, or some type of a darker creature bait, like a Zoom brush hog, something in that line. And basically just getting up there on the bank and pitching and flipping and just covering water in that real shallow water like that. Now, if the water visibility is on the clear side, say for example, if the water comes up and it maintains your clarity, what the fish do in a situation like that is they're going to go to any available flooded cover. And this is one of my favorite situations to pitch and flip in the springtime of the year, is when that water rises and it's still pretty clear. And if the fish get into any flooded cover, like willow trees, buckbrush, flooded gum trees, anything like that, can be an excellent way to fish them. Also, if you have a quick rise, a lot of times the back end of the pockets and any cuts and pockets like that, if they're steeper pockets, will have some type of debris mat, like sawdust, floating sawdust. All of those things can be excellent ways to catch them if that water is a little bit on the clear side and it comes up rapidly like that. And so a lot of it depends on how much it comes up, because if the lake comes up considerably, one of the things that harms it a little bit is if it comes up too high, even if you have flooded cover, those fish don't tend to bite unless the water's clear. Because, for example, what I'm talking about, let's say the water comes up 5 or 6 feet and you've got bushes or flooded cover with 5 or 6 foot of water in them, but you've only got water visibility of, say, 8 inches to 12 inches. That's sort of a negative. It's hard to catch fish under those situations. But if you've got clear water, like water visibility of 3, 4, 5 feet, and that water comes up 5, 10, 15 feet or whatever, you can catch fish in that flooded cover. Those fish will get in that stuff and they will bite. Whereas in the dirtier water, if the water comes up a long way, those fish tend to just get shallower and they don't get into that deeper cover like that. So that's a really big consideration to do. The next thing you want to consider, 3 techniques we're talking about, is pay close attention to the water temperature and proximity to when the fish are spawning. Because if that water temperature is below 60 degrees, like in that 55 to 60 degree zone, those fish are going to react more like it's a pre-spawn situation, and you have to fish it like that. And that's when, if I've got water temperature, 55, 58 degrees like that, I'm still staying with a lot of those baits that, will produce under the pre-spawn conditions, even like an Alabama rig, a jerk bait, crankbait, that type of stuff. And what I'm looking for in that cooler water, if that water comes up real high, those fish will stay on the original shoreline. They won't come up into the flooded cover. So say, for example, if you're fishing, say your lake was at normal level and you didn't have any flooded bushes or any flooded trees in the water, and then say the water comes up 8 or 9 feet. A lot of times when that water comes up rapidly like that, those fish will not move up into that cover immediately if the water temperature is under 60 degrees. Sometimes they will stay right where they're at, and you may have all this beautiful flooded cover up on the bank, and there won't be any fish in it at all. Those fish will be sitting right where they were, where the old shoreline was. And this is a great time of year, or a great set of conditions to catch them, like on a Carolina rig jig or a football head jig, something like that, basically fishing out in front of the flooded cover. What throws a lot of people off in a situation like that is you can get up and fish some of that flooded cover, and you may only catch little ones, and people don't understand what's going on. And then you can back out and fish that deeper water that doesn't really make sense why they should be in the deeper water. You think they should be up shallow, but you can catch those bigger ones under the conditions like that. The third thing that you need to remember, the third approach on that, is your light intensity and your sky conditions. And your light intensity and your sky conditions work in correlation with your water visibility. It's all about the penetration level. So if the water level is rising and you have some fairly clear water, if you've got like a dark, rainy, windy type cloudy days, that's when you can still fish the moving baits, like the big spinner baits, chatter baits, swim jigs, big swim baits like that 6 and 8 inch Megabass Mag Draft. Those fish will come out off the edge of that cover under those rainy, cloudy, windy type conditions, and that's when you can really catch some good fish on the big power baits. What happens a lot of times is if they're in that cover and they're in that flooded cover, if the wind isn't blowing, they tug down tight, they get down to the bottom of it. But if the wind is blowing and it's cloudy, they move up higher in the water column, they'll get on the edge of it, and that's when you can catch some bigger fish, on the edge of it like that. But the main thing, guys, and to sort of reiterate a foundation here, pay close attention to the water clarity of the lake that you're fishing as the water's rising in correlation with how much the lake rises. Because that combination of the amount of rise you have and how quick that rise occurs, along with the water clarity, will dictate your techniques. And those are the 3 techniques that have been really effective for me. So anyway, I hope that helps, guys. Like I said, everything's a little bit different. Every lake's different when the water comes up. fish react different to it, but that's some of the things that's been pretty effective here. So anyway, guys, hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk later. See you.